Okay, now we're looking good. Hey, good morning, everybody. We up on Facebook and on YouTube this morning. If you're on YouTube earlier, I don't want to confuse you. I'm gonna go ahead and take down that first live stream. Hey, good morning to you. Hope you're having a pleasant day. Lots to talk about. Not the least of which is later on today, the NAACP and the Prince Hall Masons are going to pick back up with their forum series um, to give the public, the voting public, as much information as possible about the upcoming election. Your vote matters. Don't forget that. It matters very much so. And today I'll be your moderator, and we'll be talking with the candidates for Hamilton County Prosecutor. The incumbent, of course, is Joe Dieters, and the challenger is Fanon Rucker. And I don't have the latest, but it appears that Mr. Joe Dieters is going to decline the offer to come speak with the Black community. And I want to talk about that a little bit more as to why I think he's doing that. But it looks like we'll be talking with Fanon Rucker, which means we'll do a deep dive into his mentality, and a deep dive into his campaign, and a deep dive into what the future might look like if he is elected Hamilton County Prosecutor. But before we do all of that, let's start with today's show, family. As you can see, the cover art on today's show. Let me give you a heads up. I am awaiting some new equipment. My board went out, and I'm not able to do the audio stream in the same way. I'll post it afterward, but no live stream on Spreaker or TuneIn today. You can check out the show on Facebook, obviously, and also on YouTube. But today I want to talk about a Black student that was suspended. His school sent police to his house after a teacher saw a toy gun during the virtual learning session. How many people either have children or young people, student age, school age students who are in school right now doing virtual learning, right? That's pretty much the norm right now because of COVID-19. And I want to know, do you think the school was wrong? There's an image right now. That is actually an image of the young man in question. His name is Isaiah Elliott. He's 12 years old. He was suspended for 5 days from virtual learning. Suspended from virtual learning, y'all. Not from going to school, but from virtual learning after he, quote unquote, waved a toy gun during his art class. This happened just back on, about a little over a week ago, back on August the 27th. There's actually an image right there in the bottom right-hand corner of the actual toy gun. That's an actual image of the toy gun. And apparently his art teacher, white female, who's taking some heat on Facebook right now, and rightly so, I guess she got all in her feelings and felt like, you know what, I got to do something. And she called and spoke with the assistant or the vice principal, Carrie Lindemann. And then the police were called to the family's house. I want to talk about this more and get your thoughts. Welcome to my home studio. This is me, Nathan Ivey, with you. Yeah, I know. I know when you cut the beard. I'll take care of that myself. The wife, you like it. It's all that matters. I'm good. How are you? Hope you're doing well this morning. Lots of things to talk about as usual. What do you think? I want to talk about that this morning. And if I get a chance to, I want to give you some flows, in my opinion, on the whole Joe Budden versus Charlemagne the God versus Spotify, conversation that's being had right now on social media and YouTube and other places. I got a chance to watch all of the media, and I do have a very strong opinion, which you may or may not disagree with. You may agree, you may disagree. We'll talk about that this morning as well. Plus a smattering of other topics that I think are interesting, in particular to the greater Cincinnati population and perhaps beyond. This is the Nathan Ivey Show. I'm live, I'm local, and I'm vocal. Welcome back. And I love to start the show off with some stories to start your morning. Good morning to you. There's my number there, 513-873-7134, if you want to share your thoughts. But let me go back to the cover art today. I want you to let this soak in a little bit and tell me what you think about this particular story. Have you heard this story? Have you heard about this? And apparently they were in art class, virtual learning, and the young man in question, again, he's 12 years old. His name is Isaiah Elliott. He knows his mom and his dad. I saw a news report and they were both very upset. I'll tell you the details because there is some movement on it. The parents are saying that the young man was left traumatized by the police visit to his home. And in these days and times, especially if you're a young boy of color, right? Black, you're hearing all this conversation about police. Police show up at your door looking for you. That can traumatize a young man. And we could talk about who the blame is for that. The officers actually showed up at his home. The parents were not called by the school. And here in the city of Cincinnati, and people don't like to talk about it because it's like taboo, but I don't give a damn, right? I keeps it real with you. There are no consequences for me. I am the most unfiltered daily black talk show host in Cincinnati. There are no repercussions. You like it, you like it, you don't, we'll holler at you, period. But the city of Cincinnati right now, and should I say the Cincinnati public schools are in court, as I understand it, arguing that they don't have to contact parents when your child basically has a major incident at the school. They can just do what they want to do, send you home, not tell you anything. And it seems like in Colorado, and wait a minute, Colorado, you know what I think about Colorado when I think about shootings? I think about Columbine. I'm wondering if Columbine is in some way in the backdrop of this story in terms of how people reacted. Was that fair? Not fair? We'll talk about it. So the art teacher is doing virtual learning, right? She sees the young man, and apparently the video has not been released to the public, but the father, the parents got a chance to see the video. Oh, this is deep, fam. The parents got a chance to see it because the school is actually recorded the virtual learning session. So these are issues of privacy as well. I mean, are Cincinnati's public schools recording virtual learning sessions? Are they keeping tabs on your kids? Are they keeping tabs on what's in the background at your house? I don't know. I don't know if these questions have been asked or not, but they should be asked. They should be asked this morning. Hold on one second here. Getting a message. They should be asked this morning. We should know this, right? Is it fair? Is it fair for the schools during virtual learning to be recording the sessions themselves? I want to know about it. What if the virtual learning session is over and kids are like in the process of disconnecting, but they haven't disconnected yet? Maybe they think it's disconnected and they don't realize that the camera's still on, and they don't know that the school is recording them. I think that's at play in this particular scenario here. I want to get your thoughts about it. 513-873-7134. This is deep, y'all. This is so deep right here. So apparently what the father said in the news clip that I saw is that his son picked up the toy gun and moved it from like one side of the desk to the other side of the desk. So it kind of flashed across the camera a little bit, right? Almost like this, right? Because for a black man, a cell phone is the same as having a gun. There's a man in Ohio who had a woman call the police, black man in Ohio. A woman called the police on him. He's sitting in his car doing business. A woman calls the police on him and tells the police that a black man has a gun. What do police do? They show up. Hands up, hands up, hands up. Turns out it's just a cell phone. Just a cell phone. It happened in Ohio recently. It's been reported. So the gun flashes across the screen. The art teacher sees it. And if you're the art teacher, I mean, you want teachers to be concerned, right? You want teachers to be concerned. You want teachers to give a damn and not just be like, oh, okay, we're just going to do primary colors today. We don't care what's happening, right? I want teachers to be concerned. I want teachers to be concerned about where they're seeing abuse and other things. But in this scenario, the teacher contacted the assistant principal, right? And the assistant principal contacted the police before even contacting the parents. Do you have a problem with that? Do you have a problem with that timeline? Who do you blame? Do you blame the parents? Like, why are they letting their son play with toy guns anyway? Should parents be more responsible in terms of like the backgrounds and the things that they allow to be on the screen, right, during virtual learning? I know I'm very sensitive about that. Not that we have anything to hide. I just want to make sure that we're putting out the proper image. Everybody's watching. And my son doesn't have any toy guns. We don't let him play with toy guns, even though he tries to turn everything into a damn weapon. He's got swords. I'm like, kid, no, we're not doing that, yo. But some parents do. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with letting your kids play with toy guns. Or is it? Is that the problem? Should the parents have been more sensitive and smart in knowing, living in Colorado, that people could overreact if they see toy guns, especially in the hands of a non-white student? Especially in the hands of a non-white student. This particular story, our school district is the Grand Mountain Elementary School. Grand Mountain Elementary School in Colorado. And so the police showed up, and as I said, the parents said that their son was traumatized because the police showed up on some, let's make sure we never have to come back type ish. And from what I'm gathering from the parents, they told the young man that this could lead to charges and he could be in serious trouble over a toy gun. Over a toy gun. How would you react to this? 513-873-7134. I'm looking at an image of the young man. He's 12 years old, Isaiah Elliott. He was suspended from virtual learning. That's what gets me. You're not even going to the school. You're at home. And the school is like, look, whether it's virtual learning or it's actually at the school, our rules extend to whenever we're in school time, right? That sounds logical on some levels. It sounds logical at the same time. This is virtual learning. This is virtual learning, so it's not the same as being in a school. Like, nobody's in threat. There's no threat that he's going to bring a gun to school because he's at home, right? But what do you think, family? 513-873-7134. We got a call on the line. Let's go straight to it. Hey, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Nathan and the Choppers. This is Sarah.
Hey, what's up, Sarah? Welcome.
Hey, man, that little hashtag, that little artwork up there, man, gets disturbed. One of the things that really is of some major concern to me, and it doesn't really matter what school system that you're talking about. They seem to operate somewhat independently of the courts. It's almost as if they have their own little thing going. What we're talking about here is an invasion of privacy. What we're talking about here are constitutional rights that are being taken away. What we're talking about is pretty much the standard as it applies to young black men and white women who make up primarily most of the teaching positions in this damn country. And we've seen the results of that in as much as the school to prison pipeline is concerned. I am so tired. I'm exhausted. I'm anxiety stricken. Every day is something. When is this going to stop, man? I mean, it's almost as if we're under attack. Consistently. I don't know what can be done about matters like this, but I can say this. There's always been somewhat of a disconnect as it applies to education in this country, in as much as our demographic is concerned. It starts with our kids. It ends with them. And I don't understand why this continues to happen. Why is it that we have to be the poster children of all of this crap? I'm tired, man. I don't understand why. I don't understand how it is that you can just call the police and not contact the parent. Why are you so concerned with what's going on in my house outside of teaching my child? What business is that of yours? I understand safety. But then you have a police show up at the house. I guess just for what, safety concerns or whatever. Did they have a warrant? Did they enter the house? Did they ask to see the gun? I don't know the entire story here. But it just seems out of place, man. And just this is getting out of hand. How much more can we take of this? I'm really at a loss for words, my man, because this is just outlandish. But something needs to be done in terms of protocols for things of that nature. I mean, and when things happen, even in other states, we need to take a look at that because it could just as well happen here. It's crazy. I'm done with this, though, man. I mean, I don't even have any more to say about it, but it just upsets me. So I just had to, I guess, comment on it. Have a blessed day, my brother.
You too, sir. I'll take it easy, man. You said
right.
he said
I'll be listening this evening.
This evening for the forum?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, exactly.
Most definitely.
All right.
Most definitely.
Take care, brother.
Yeah, I will, man. Thank you. He says he's upset, tired of it. Okay, but let's be fair here. Let's be fair. Like, where do you think that the breakdown happened? Because there was a breakdown. Was the breakdown with the parents allowing their son to have toy guns in his room during virtual learning? Should they have been more conscious? Should they have been more conscious? Say, listen, you know what? We're going to put these toy guns up. You won't even have access to the toy guns while you're doing virtual learning because we know how some people can be. Was it the art teacher? Was the art teacher like overreacting because, hey, it's a toy gun? And again, I'll put the artwork up again. I mean, you know, when you're looking at a static image like that, obviously that seems to be a toy gun, I guess. But when it flash across the screen, I mean, you don't know what the hell that is, right? Especially if you're someone who's not used to guns or how they look. You know what I'm saying? Was she wrong? Should the art teacher have contacted the parents first before contacting the school? Was the school wrong? Was the assistant principal wrong? Because the assistant principal sent the school resource officers to the home before contacting mom and dad. You tell me. We got Tracy on the line. Hey, good morning, Tracy. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Nathan. How are you?
I'm doing great. Welcome.
I got a few thoughts on this topic. First off, yes, the school should contact the parents to let their kids know that they're in trouble. I don't know if every school district does this, but in my school district, when you're filling out that big ass stack of papers at the beginning of the year, one of the papers that we sign every year, and this year was electronically, so it was no different. We sign a paper that talks about the internet policy guidelines. And it gives your child permission to be on the internet. You have to release permission if they're going to be recorded and or photographed. So if you sign that, you just gave your child permission to be on the internet. Therefore, that's why I kind of disagree with Sarah about it being an invasion of privacy. So you have to think about that when you sign that. The next thing for me is, and even though my kids are 19 and 16, if somebody comes to the door and I'm not there, they may answer the door at this point, they may not. But I know when they were younger and in elementary or junior high school, there was no answering the door when we weren't there. Also, with my 16-year-old being online at school, and my 19-year-old, I tell them either on Zoom. Well, my 16-year-old cannot not be seen. They have to have their videos shown because that's how they report that they're in school. But my 19-year-old, he doesn't, log into the video. But tell your kids to go downstairs or somewhere where your house is not visible. Have them sit in the dining room, have them sit up against the wall so people will not survey what's in your house. I don't like my house being on display, so I tell my 16-year-old, come downstairs, either sit at the dining room, and most of the time he doesn't sit at the dining room because that's where I work when I'm working from home. I'm on my way in now. But sit somewhere where you can't be seen. Use something as a backdrop because they are surveying of how you're living and what's going on in your home. I remember the first day of school, I heard the teacher ask this girl, so-and-so, can you turn your video on? The girl flat out said no. And the next day, the teacher said, everybody will have your video on or you're going to be marked absent and we will be calling your parents to let them know that you're not in school. So, there's a few things that we can do on the front end so that, our privacy won't be invaded, so that they will not survey and see what you have in your house. I don't know the age of that boy because I sort of skimmed over that article, but, maybe he didn't have to answer the door. I don't know. But there's just a lot of ways that we can combat what's going on. And somebody on the flip side might say, well, why do we have to do that as black people, white people? I'm not having that argument no more. We know that we're under attack and we know what we need to do. We can't do what white people do. So let's stop saying that and let's just protect ourselves. So that's my 2 cents on the story.
Well, the young man is 12 years old, just so you know.
He shouldn't have answered the door. That's what, 6th grade, maybe 7th grade. My kids had rules back then. If somebody comes to the door, don't answer, especially if I'm not home. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it is what it is. Every parent has different rules for their kids. That's the rules that my kids live by. It works for us, but, it is what it is. Everybody's parents aren't working from home. So, kids home alone are vulnerable. And, this is the end result.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for the call, Tracy. Take it easy.
All right, bye.
Yeah, that's Tracy from Cincinnati checking in. And on the screen here, I got a dual screen up, and that's a screenshot of Grand Mountain School's Facebook page. Because like I said, people are heated on here, man. I even left some comments because I like to stir the pot. I left a couple comments myself away from Cincinnati, just giving my honest opinions about it. Someone named Sarah writes, not your current practice, yet the child was recorded without parental or district consent. Sounds like a lawsuit. So Randy writes, this is a systematic of all D3, the recording of students' webcams should be agreed upon by the parents prior. I'm okay with my kids having webcam, but I am not okay with recording. Which begs the question, I don't remember this coming up when it comes to Cincinnati Public Schools. Are Cincinnati Public Schools recording the virtual learning sessions? And what is the extent of the recording? Does anybody know the answer to that question? I'd like to know. I'd like to know. It makes sense on some levels that they were recorded, just in terms of liability. But is that something we consented to? I don't remember signing anything saying they can do that. I like to know. Is CPS is your school? My children are in CPS. Is Cincinnati Public Schools recording the virtual learning sessions? I like to know. Does it make a difference? Does it make a difference to you? I like to know. People are heated on this Facebook page. I love Facebook. Somebody even posted an image of the art teacher, like, look at her. Hey, it is what it is. You don't like it, don't step into the arena. Let's go and say good morning. Pamela writes, good morning, Nathan and Choppers. Charles writes, grand risings, Nathan and Choppers. Sarah writes, good morning, Nathan and my Chopper family. Eb G writes, good morning, great people. KR Mitchell writes, good morning, Nathan and Choppers. Hey, what's up, D? Good to see you. Greetings. It was good to see you over the weekend. I'd love to get your thoughts about the class. Sarah writes, hell yeah, the school was wrong. For me as a parent, I would have appreciated a phone call. But then think about this on the other side. If it's an emergent situation where lives are at stake, You want them to do what they got to do to save lives. Is there an argument to be made that the school did the right thing? Just for the sake of the conversation this morning, I want to look at it from all sides. You tell me. Let's go back to the phones. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Nathan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Good morning, Fame.
It's absolutely wonderful to hear. I did not call your show yesterday. I heard you had said that. I think we got Fame on the line. I called back. God, if I did, it was a pocket dial. I don't remember.
Okay. I thought it was a number. I got to I got to save your contact. That's where I'll know exactly who it is.
Oh, okay. But to answer your question, I have absolutely no problem with what the school did. These kids are wilding out on these Zooms. I don't know if you saw it. I posted a video of some activity at Western Hills High School. Kid in class in a mask, a ski mask, talking about SMD. They talking about circumference. He talking about, no, this is how you measure your circumference. My D big as hell, blah, 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 blah. Told some African boy, what the hell does a mama do? I'll beat your A on gang, bruh. I jumped through the screen and beat these kids wilding on these Zooms.
Where'd you post it?
I thought on my page, but I think I still have the video. If I don't, I can find it and send. I'm not in the friends group. I think I posted it in Donnie's group, Donnie B's group.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was the first day of school. Teacher asking him to leave. If this Zoom learning, online learning these kids are doing, it is the perfect learning format for people who don't want to be in school. If you don't want to be there, don't log on and disrupt the class. These teachers probably been praying for something like this. I'm tired of having to deal with kids who don't want to be here. Now, as far as this kid in the gun, the school, ain't there something called in loco parenthesis? When you're acting in place of the parents, they made the best decision. I see a 12-year-old with a gun. I don't know if it's real or not. I'm calling the police. Quit letting your natural feelings about, white people and white administration cloud your judgment. This was a good move because you're logged on to school property. You're in a Zoom class. You're in the school environment. And I don't see a judge telling the school that they're wrong on some technicality. No, they try to protect the kid. Get over yourself. The problem is, what's he doing with a toy gun in this day and era, this day and age? Didn't you see what happened to the 12-year-old in Cleveland? There's the problem. Not that they called the police. You understand me? So I'm more mad at the parents. Like, why does your son have a toy gun that looks real? What the hell are you thinking about? And now you want to get mad because people, like Tracy was saying, she's exactly, I can't say she's right, but I agree with her. Have your kid with a back to the wall in a nondescript room when you're on these Zoom classes so people can't survey your house, because that's what teachers do to determine if that child may be in danger at home. That's what they're doing, I've seen one video, some, little boy looked like he was in kindergarten, first grade. His mom sitting in there, big old bitties, neckline. I don't even know if she had on a shirt. Her neckline was so low. If you don't think the school's taking inventory of that, this is how his mom behaves. You're kidding yourself.
Mm-hmm. Facts.
You know what I'm saying? So, you parents, you're out there, your kids in the online learning, if a little roach come out, it'd be like that sometimes. I understand that, but the school's going to report it. Like, yeah, he's living in squalor. You know what I'm saying? So as far as a toy gun being on screen, the kid should have better, at 12, the kid should have better discretion. And in this day and age, the parents should have better discretion than allow their kid to have that. So I'm not mad at the school with that at all. They were trying to protect the kid. They didn't know. And if he's 12, he's probably in 6th or 7th grade, as she said. So that's probably his first year at that middle school. Again, they don't know him like that. You know what I'm saying? They don't, they acted in place of the parents. They don't, I think, I'm not going to, I don't know the legality behind it, but I don't have a problem with it. I don't think they did anything wrong.
All right,
That's
brother.
your fault. You got caught slipping. You feel me?
Right. And,
You parents.
do you think the fact that this is Colorado, so you got the backdrop, the history of Columbine, you think that plays a factor, a role in this at all?
Probably, but that's only if they plan on coming to face-to-face school anytime this year. You know what I'm saying? But before I go, bro, that video you played yesterday, please don't play nothing like that again. That was disturbing. About that girl, whatever was going on. I call it like
Trinity.
the middle end of it.
Yeah.
It was just too disturbing. I couldn't watch it, especially when I heard her say, "Please get away from me."
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
You know, like
it was
you said.
disturbing.
Like you said, if you're a dad and you have custody of your children have already experienced something traumatic for you to have the custody in the first place. Don't worsen the situation being a dickhead.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Don't worsen the situation.
Think about the kids.
Yeah, they online learning, threatening with people with guns. So me saying that, I mean,
now the young man's threatening people with guns. Look at you. You wild on that one.
I mean, I'm just saying, if you got a problem with them calling, then, if you got a problem with them calling the parents on, calling the police or whatever, then you ain't got a problem with me calling an abusive dad a D-head.
I don't. It's just on the air.
No, I didn't mean you personally. No, I didn't mean you personally.
Get this, Fame. I ain't even play the worst part about the video. The worst part is when the father gets on top of the young girl in the garage and is like holding her down, holding both her arms.
Man,
that was the worst part.
I don't want to hear. Sorry, man. I don't want to hear that. That's what I'm saying. I can't. I didn't even go looking for that video to watch it to get the full scope.
Yeah.
I heard and saw a child being abused.
Yeah.
And that was enough for me. Stepmom, whoever. I don't care if that was the real parents, grandparents next to that. When I heard that girl say, "Get away from me," I knew I couldn't take it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So please don't play anything like that. That upset my stomach. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, man, I'll holler at you at a future moon. Oh!
Yeah, a lot of people told me that video. Appreciate the call. A lot of people told me, minus the cursing. Appreciate the call. Again, remember the kids. I appreciate the call. I mean, I didn't even play the worst part of the video because I just couldn't. I couldn't stomach it. At one point, this grown man, and again, that's his child. I get it, but he gets on top of her. She's like this spread eagle. He's on top of her on the floor of the garage, holding her down. I'm like, come on, man. Yeah, I don't see him doing that with no grown man. I don't see him doing it. And I do know that Waka Flocka's mother, some Lil Scrappy and some other dudes, T.I., some other folks responded to the video looking for the parents. And the parents was like, mind your business. Mind your business. But what do you think about Fame? What's your reaction to his opinion? He says, look, the school did what they had to do because they don't know what it is. They're trying to protect the child. Do you agree with his opinion? 513-873-7134. Ashley, good to see you. She writes, good morning, Nathan and the Choppers. Good morning to you. Tracy writes, hi, we heard from her earlier. These white people are starting to get on my nerves. Suspended? Yes, he was suspended. Because they have to justify it. I think suspicion is too much. I think that once they go to the school, once the school goes to, they send the resource officers to the house and they realize it's a toy gun, why is he being suspended? Now, if those are the school rules, like, look, you can't bring a toy gun to school because we're going to look at a toy gun the same way we do with a real gun. I know that some school systems look at it that way. Then that opens the door to give more credibility to their actions. As a parent, as a conscious human being, I just think it's overreach. The most important thing is making sure that you don't separate the child from learning. What I've learned in my interactions with my daughter is that's what the school says until the school does something, and then all of a sudden learning don't mean nothing. You know what I'm saying? That's just some ish they say. But if the number one thing is creating a good environment for the child, then how does suspending him for having, and not even waving it around, again, from what the parents said is he picked the gun up and moved it from one side of his desk and moved it to another side, or from one side of the room to the other side. But school is making it seem like he was all, Easy-E with it. Like, you know what I'm saying? He wasn't all Easy-E NWA with it. That's what the parents are saying. I haven't seen the video because it hasn't been released to the public. Because I think it makes a difference. Like if you pointing the gun and doing all this kind of stuff, that's different from you picking it up and moving it. To me, there's a difference. To me, there's a difference. To get suspended for 5 days, that's harsh. That's harsh. And since we're dealing with a little black boy, and from what I gather, all the decision makers are white. In these days and times, it just conjures up that conversation about the over-policing, the school-to-prison pipeline. You know, I equate teachers, principals to police officers in some way because they have some similar responsibilities in a sense that a police officer is in a position to give his or her opinion about whether they think you broke the rules and then to give you punishment. And so is a school. Same thing with these teachers and administrators. They're in a position to judge the situation and then to offer up some type of punishment. And that's why, you know, again, I got to circle back around and talk to Mike Morosky and see what they're doing with the anti-racism policy. Because I think there's a way of doing it in which is effective and they really actually help. And I think there's a way of doing it which is just a Band-Aid and is purely symbolic. And knowing this, see the way I do, the symbolic way is always the easy way in Cincinnati. Doing symbolic shit is doing symbolic stuff is always easier than doing stuff with real substance. We good at symbolism. We are so good at symbolism. And I would be very disappointed if, you know, the Cincinnati School Board does all this tough talk about anti-racism, and then what they actually offer up don't really have any kind of impact whatsoever. But I must admit, I've been a bit disconnected and distracted from that. I'll circle back around and connect with Mike Morosky. I do know that some of the CPS students were recently on WVXU talking about racism. I didn't hear the interview. I've been, you know, doing other things. And I saw that Mike Morosky was like cheerleading, like, oh, way to go. The students did great. But were they talking about like the racism in the community? Or were they talking about the racism that they did with teachers and administrators? Because see, one is safe and the other is difficult. Having CPS students talk about their interactions with police officers in general is easier than having a conversation with CPS students talking about the racism they deal with at the hands of teachers and administrators in CPS. And I know this city. I know how we move here. So again, I can't give you an opinion about it because I haven't listened to it. I'm going to circle back around. That'll be a future show, maybe later this week. I'll circle back around and see if I can get Mr. Morosky on the show. He seems like he's serious about it. We'll see. We'll see. But what do you think? Do you agree with Fame? Do you think that the school did what they were supposed to do? They're trying to save this young man. Okay. There's just so many layers to it. You're trying to save him. Okay, I can buy all of that. Okay, you're trying to save him. But once you realize it's a toy gun, why was he suspended from virtual learning for 5 days? What's the point in that? 5 days? We're talking about a whole week. So he misses a whole week of virtual learning. Because he picked up a toy gun in his room. That to me is overhand. It's heavy-handed. It's heavy-handed. I don't care anybody says, that part of it is heavy-handed. If you're an art teacher and you think you don't know there's a gun, you contact the superintendent or something like that, okay. I mean, you know, the principal, the assistant principal, okay. I can buy that. Because you're an art teacher. That's not your job. You're doing your job. You report to the assistant principal. If you're the assistant principal and the art teacher gives you this information and you go back, did the assistant principal go back and look at the actual video? Because I think that would have been in order since you're video recording it. I think the assistant principal can go either way. On one hand, you can say, well, her hands are tied because this is the rules, the procedures, and she don't know. On the other hand, as a parent, you're thinking, hey, can I get a phone call? I would have told you, hey, it's a toy gun. He did what? Oh my, listen, thank you for calling Mr. and Mrs. such and such. I'm gonna handle this. Click, it's over with. It's over with. It's over with. Okay, but you didn't call the parents, so you called the school resource officer to go to the school. Okay. School resource officer knocks on the door. They come in and do a wellness check. Everybody okay over here? Ain't nobody dead? Nobody mistakenly shot themselves? Okay, everybody's good? Okay, great. We out. Oh, this is the gun? Well, son, look, I'm going to give you a little talking to about, how to conduct yourself. Hey, son, listen, I don't think it's smart for you to do that in these days and times because the teachers don't, you give them a talk. Just be careful, son. All right? Seem like a good boy. Get back to learning. But why suspend them for 5 days? I don't get it. It seems like, and again, I'm just spitballing here, but you see the same thing happen in law enforcement, where law enforcement be dead wrong, but they'll charge somebody just to make a scene, just to take the conversation another way, make it seem like they was right. Okay? Is that what's happening here? Again, I'm just spitballing. I don't know. Charles writes, wow, you can clearly see that's a gun. These Karens are too much. Black ain't even safe from them at home. I think he means you can clearly see it's a toy gun. Again, if you don't know what we're talking about, we're talking about this story right here. And this young man, his name is, let me back up here. His name is Isaiah Elliott. He's 12 years old. He used to attend Grand Mountain School, but his parents have said they're going to withdraw him from the school. And he's currently on a waiting list for a local charter school. So we out of here. We ain't dealing with this no more. And I can understand that. And see, the way it works, the people at the school don't give a damn. Because they got so much stuff on their plate, they don't care if one kid lives. They don't care. They don't give a damn. I'm telling you, I've done with teachers and administrators in this school at Warner Hills. They don't give a damn. They getting their paycheck. I had a teacher tell me at Warner Hills, this ain't going to affect my career. After he had an incident with my daughter. I hit the roof. Family, the roof. This black man. A black man. So these teachers and administrators don't give a damn in a lot of cases. Some of them do, but in some cases, they don't give a damn. They don't give a damn. They don't care if you pull your kid out. It's like, hey, let's work for us. There's a huge level of detachment when it comes to some of these interactions. So the parents say they withdrew the school. I mean, they withdrew Isaiah Elliott from the school. And here's the timeline. So the art teacher informed his mom via email after the class had ended. She informed the mother. And again, props to the art teacher. I don't see the art teacher as necessarily doing anything wrong. You're the teacher, man. You got your next class to worry about. You don't got time for all of this. You did your due diligence. You reported to the administrator what you thought was going on. You emailed the teacher. Now, we can argue back and forth as to whether the teacher should have emailed the assistant principal before or after they emailed the parent. We can go back and forth on that one. But in my opinion, the art teacher did what she was supposed to do. It's hard for me to say that the art teacher was wrong because you know how these Zoom classes go. It's like 15 little blocks on the screen. You can barely see them. She may or may not have had Isaiah's particular screen or cam enlarged on her computer. I've done it myself. I mean, you can't tell what everybody's doing. I mean, from the art teacher's perspective, it probably flashed like this. And she's like, wait a minute, what I see? I know it was a gun, but I don't know if it was real or not. Now, should the art teacher say, hold on, Isaiah, hold on. What did I just see here? Put that back on the screen. Is that the expectation? I don't know. You tell me. Tanika writes, good morning, Nathan the Choppers. Brian's on YouTube. He writes, good morning. Dale writes, good morning, Nate. Anthony writes, good morning, Chop Shop. Jason's in the house. What's up, Jason? He writes, good morning. Craig writes, and why is a black man with a gun in a car illegal? Yeah, that's a story from Ohio. Brother sitting in his Mustang in the parking lot, doing some business. And some woman, probably a white woman, called the police on him, claiming that she saw him with a gun. She thought it was a gun. The police showed up like, hands up. What's up? and he wasn't arrested. But I mean, again, people act like having a gun drawn on you or nearly drawn on you is just no big deal. Well, it happens every day, little small things that happen to you, to make sure we're all safe. You deal with that on a regular basis and think how you feel. You have guns drawn on you or almost drawn on you, people shouting commands, hands up, hands up. Man, when they start shouting commands like that, you this close to being shot, whether you got a gun or not. And we all know it, especially if you're a non-white person. Now, white folks, generally speaking, this is something that's a lesser concern to you. I say lesser because white people can get it too. Like I told you, law enforcement in America are just like Adrian Broner. Anybody can get it. White, black, Hispanic, rich, poor, handicapped, blind, Down syndrome, homeless. I done seen white people get quarters slammed out their ass on video. Same thing happens. It just happens to non-white people at a higher clip because of people's paranoia and anxiety about non-white folks and their criminality. Same thing happens in the school. Same thing happens in school when you're dealing with white administrators who are more sympathetic to their white students and less sympathetic to the non-white students because there's a race barrier. They don't identify as much. We dealt with it. I've seen it. It's the truth. Kendall writes, good morning. Janice writes, the school definitely should have contacted the parents first. As a parent, I would have appreciated a call first. That's my initial reaction to Janice. But is there any argument to be made that the school was trying to do what they can for safety? Is there an argument there? Fame called in and tried to make the argument. Was it successful? Do you agree with it? 513-873-7134. Let me put my number back on the screen here. Talking current events. Janice says the school should have definitely been contacted first. Do you agree with that? Jason writes, definitely has to be a clear space. The whole country is more sensitive to everything. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And when they had Columbine, man, to that point, that was the worst school mass shooting ever. All them kids got shot and killed by these young white psycho sickos. I don't like myself, so I want to go kill everybody. Oh, I got bullied, so I want to go kill some people at the school and all this kind of crazy now. So I can imagine people in Colorado in particular being hypersensitive about that. I can imagine that. Tracy writes, parents should know what they are signing and read it in the stack of papers first day. There are internet guidelines and photography guidelines that parents sign for kids under 18. That would cover Zoom, she writes. I think she's right about that. Brian's on YouTube. He writes, no problem here. We educate BJ in Nerf guns. These are toys. I plan on having BJ taking training around 10 for firearms in ROTC camp. I'm not against that. I'm not against young people learning how to use firearms, how to shoot firearms, in particular firearms safety, like how to safely pick up a weapon, how to safely store a weapon, how to make sure that the weapon is not loaded, how to load a weapon. I'm in favor of all of that. Stephen writes, good morning, Nathan Choppers. Good morning to you. Jocelyn writes, good morning to you. Janice writes, when they found it was a toy, they should have no reason for expulsion. I agree with you. But some of these schools have a policy where even a toy gun will be looked upon the same way as a real gun. And if they have a policy like that in Colorado, that might have been why, or the rationale to give them 5 days. 5 days for a toy gun? To me, that's overboard. So you want to remove him from the learning process for a whole week of virtual learning, which is difficult as it is. It's difficult enough. Over a toy gun? I don't understand that. Fame writes, what y'all hollering about? You know what we hollering about. Jebba writes, good morning, Nathan Choppers. Good morning to you. Charles writes, the police broke their necks to get to that scene. I'm sure they did. And probably for good reason. If you're ROTC, I'm sorry, if you're a resource officer and you're assigned to a school and you get a phone call saying, hey, we think one of the kids flashed a gun. Yeah, you trying to get there. I would assume you're trying to get there. If it's me, I'm trying to get there because I want to make sure the kid don't shoot himself or shoot somebody else. That's what I would be thinking if I'm a school resource officer. Like, man, this kid's going to F around and shoot theyself or shoot somebody else. Let me get over here and make sure everything's okay. Do a wellness check. I got no problem with that. I got no problem with that. Jocelyn writes, sorry to be a bother, but I am wondering what happened. Oh, no bother whatsoever. That was at 8:30. I think I talked about it several times. Hopefully you caught up. Janice writes, historically, whenever black people become successful, i.e. Rosewood, etc., you see the increase of violence against black people. Yeah. All day, every day. Yeah. Slavery was about economics. All the non-human, less than human stuff was a rationale to get cheap, not cheap, but free labor to build economic wealth, right, for non-black people. You know, yeah, Black Wall Street. Man, over in Indiana, people don't know this, maybe you do know this, but in Indianapolis, they had their own Black Wall Street / little Harlem over there. What happened to that? So you're right about that. Jack's on YouTube, he writes, why do we need these racist schools when they have virtual learning? We need to educate our own. Well, I mean, let's look at the school over in Avondale. It's run by black folks. What happened? You had a black family. They had to pull their kid out because the school that's run by black people said, you're coming in here with this ethnic hair. We don't like it. So even when we create our own, there's still, you don't own nothing until you own something. That's number one. We got to create our own. Ain't the same as you doing it yourself because you don't own anything. It depends on the mentality of the people in charge. Black, white, or whatever. If they got a bad mentality, then that's what the hell's going to happen. Excuse me, I'm getting my tea. A little green organic tea every single morning with some supplemental powder in there as well. Charles writes, a white kid wouldn't have gotten suspended. You know, as a black man who is intelligent, who's conscious, who is aware of the world around us, I completely understand where you're coming from when you say that, Charles. If I'm trying to be fair about it, I would say that I don't have enough information about the people involved. I'm in Cincinnati, this happened in Colorado. But I can't say that your suspicions and your conclusion is not based upon historical evidence and just knowing the world the way we know it. I can't tell you you're completely wrong about that. But for me personally, I don't know. Like, I've seen favoritism when it comes to white kids. Like in my daughter's school, I've seen favoritism toward white kids that commit bad behavior. All kind of excuses. Well, what about this? And don't you care about what happened? And I'm like, wait a minute. No, I don't. Why should I? I care about my child. So extrapolating from that, I can't say you're wrong. I can't say you're wrong. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know. And you know what's so bad about it, Charles, is the fact that we don't know isn't of itself the problem. You know what I'm saying? The fact that we can't concretely say 100% that the white kids and the black kids are all going to be treated the same just signifies that there's a problem. Kendall Rice should have called the parents. Had they called the parents, should they have called the parents? Again, it just depends on what they saw and what they really believed. But I would say they should have called the parents. I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough one right there. Like, you say should have called the parents. And I agree. As a parent, I want to be called first because then I can address it before it becomes some big old thing, right? But you don't know if the parents are part of the problem these days. You don't know. Some of these parents are the problem, like we talked about yesterday. So it's hard to say. Daryl writes, events like this, COVID-45, revising history, denying the 1619 project, we have to mind our P's and Q's. Common sense is out of the window. That's right. Yeah. And it's just the Republican Party. They got a problem with the whole 1619 project. And the 1619 Project, as I understand it, Set Me Straight, is essentially just a different lens at teaching world history. And in my opinion, talking about things in a very real way that haven't been talked about to this point. And what the Republicans are threatening to do is to defund these school systems that introduce the 1619 curriculum, which I think is wrong. But listen, let's go back to the phones. Let's say good morning and welcome to the show. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Ivey. This is your West Side Connection, Drop Squad 52, calling in out here from the left coast, also known as the People's Republic of California. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Great topic, Mr. Ivey. We all know there's zero tolerance. There's zero tolerance in schools and guns. Come on, Mr. Ivey, really? How is this even a big story? I don't get it. But again, great topic for your show. And speaking of schools, did you know, Mr. Ivey, that HBCUs are being targeted to conduct coronavirus vaccine trials? Are you aware of that, sir?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Oh, okay. I just sent you something on Twitter, and I'll just read you something real quick if you allow me.
Yeah, sure.
Now, this is a letterhead. This is a letterhead from Xavier University of Louisiana and Dillard University. It says, "Dear students, staff, and faculty of Dillard and Xavier University, our communities have been hit hard by COVID pandemic with harrowing consequences for the lives and health of our fellow citizens. Overcoming the virus will require the availability of vaccines effective for all people in our communities, especially our Black and brown neighbors. Phase 3 vaccine trials have begun across the nation, including in New Orleans. It is of the utmost importance that a significant number of Black and brown subjects participate so that the effectiveness of these vaccines be understood across the many diverse populations that comprise these United States. We, the president of Dillard and Xavier, are already participating in the Ochsner Medical System's current vaccine trial. As part of the study, we have received our injections and have been monitoring and reporting any symptoms and side effects. Upon our enrollment, we were fully informed, and any possible risks that would exclude us from the study were disclosed. We are both well." Now, that's all, Marie. I just read the first two paragraphs. Now, Mr. Ivey, if you remember back when there was a big drive to get these testing sites in Black communities, and our resident freedom fighter for Cincinnati and the Nathan Ivey Show, Iris Rowley, she was one of the number one voices in getting the funding for these clinics in Cincinnati's Black communities. And if you remember, me and her had a little back and forth, and I suggested that Black people were being used. Now, again, Mr. Ivey, from reading this letter from these two universities, Xavier and Dillard, it seems to me that Black people are indeed being sought out to be used for medical experimentation. Now, that's just my take, obviously, but again, Mr. Ivey, here we go again. Here we go again. And like I've been saying ever since I've been on your show, Mr. Ivey, this election in 2020 is going to be a turning point for the Black voters of this country, because the party that they have so vigorously and blindly supported for over the last 60 years is beginning to be exposed for what they really are. And like I always say, Democrats have all the good white folks. So that's all I got, Mr. Ivey. And I hope everybody would trust but verify everything that I just read from that historically Black college letterhead that they're sending to their students and the parents and faculty and alumni
of their universities. So that's all I got, sir. And you keep doing your thing, Mr. Ivey. Your show on YouTube is just improving every day. And I know you're a one-man show. You're going to get the thing done, sir. That's all I got. Drop squad. Go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead and finish up.
So I was going to do my little closing remarks.
Go right ahead.
Drop Squad 52, dropping science to anyone who wants to catch it. Peace.
Appreciate it. Can you tell me something? All right, hold on one second, family. The wifey is saying she needs to talk to me real quick, so it must be very, very urgent. Give me 1 second here. Okay, it's all good. I thought it was super urgent. Sorry about that, family. Well, I thought it was life or death urgent. But yeah, she's saying there's some issues with the Wi-Fi. It's all good. Let me see here. So dropped in. Appreciate the call, man. This guy. And I do remember that. That was a heated conversation when Sister Iris called back in. She was not happy. I do remember that. It was not good. Good morning to you. Appreciate it. I'm getting crazy messages here. What about my mic? Is it still on? That's cool. Yeah. That's cool. I mean, I didn't, nothing too sensitive. I knew the mic was still on. We just stepped into the next room. It's all good. I appreciate you giving a damn, though. Where are we? I want to share with you some information that we didn't know. A member of City Council is now telling us that she had COVID-19. I'm talking about Councilwoman Jan Michelle Lemon Kearney. Says she had COVID-19. Yeah. Apparently, this was back in mid-August. And she just had some symptoms like a pounding headache and had a temperature of 102.6 degrees. Turns out she had COVID. I'm wondering, how many people think you've already had COVID? Because we think that COVID ran through this household back in like was that January? Back in January. My son was very, very sick. And when you've got kids that go to daycare or any kind of like school or whatever, I mean, they're going to get all kind of stuff. You ever seen these kids at these daycares, man? Oh my gosh, especially the little kids. One little kid would come through, put his mouth all on something, throw it down. Another kid would pick it up and put his mouth on it. I'm like, oh, that's nasty. But they're kids. They don't know any difference. So we think that COVID swept through our household back in January. You know, I had some symptoms, nothing too bad. And my wife didn't really have any symptoms. But I'm wondering, and what's the science on COVID? Like, is COVID one of those kind of things where if you get it, you now can't get it again? Or are individuals out here carrying individual, like, different strains of the virus? So maybe you had like strain A of COVID, but then, so you can't get strain A, but then someone has strain B and you can get strain B. You know what I'm saying? I know HIV is like that. Like you can get HIV and get one strain and get reinfected with another strain of HIV, as I understand it. Set me straight if I'm wrong on that. That's crazy. And she says, take your vitamins, and isolation is required. And I'm thinking mid-August, I wasn't around her, but I did go to an event where she was there. We weren't close to one another. She was there, though. And she had the mask on. I had my mask on. I was, reporting for CDM. And she was there. And I guess she didn't know it at that point. That's interesting. Just another reminder. I mean, they say COVID-19 is going down, the infection rates, but just a reminder out there, family, that it's real out here. It's real. Let's move on. Jocelyn writes, if it was an emergency situation, if you see a kid flash a gun across the screen, you got to take action. with all of the accidents that have occurred, we just had a 6-year-old kid who shot himself in the leg with a real gun, right? And the mother was charged. I thought it was strange. The mother was charged for what exactly? I don't know the details, but remember that. She's right about that. So, man, listen, in these days and times, a kid flashes a toy gun or a real gun across the screen. It's not outside the realm of logical plausibility that the school system is going to react and they're going to send somebody to the school. That's not, I get that. I get all of that. I think my biggest issues is the timeline in terms of when they made the parents the most aware, because think about this. Think about this. Here's another reason where, I see two problems with this. The number one problem is not letting the parents know, because a phone call travels faster than resource officers in a patrol car. You hear me on that, fam? If it's all about safety, and you're the school district and you want to make sure the young man is safe, you want to make sure the people in the house are safe, a phone call travels faster than human beings in a vehicle. So if you really care about safety, the number one thing you should do is place that call to mom and dad to put them on high alert. Think about this. Think about this. Well, you can do 2 streams. I just got a message here from the NAACP. You can do 2 streams. But anyway, think about this. So we all agree that it seems like there is kind of a consensus, not 100%, that the school system did the right thing in maybe sending the police to the school, right? But get this. If you're the school, what's your concern? Your concern is that the young person might shoot themselves or shoot somebody else in the house. So why don't you call the adults in the house and put them on alert first? That just makes sense. It just makes sense. The very first call you should make should be to the parents, because they're there. They're the ones that's either potentially in danger, and they're the ones that can react the fastest because they're the closest. If you want to call the school resource officer and have a resource officer go out, do that. But you should contact the people on the scene first. You're on the scene. And then secondly, why 5 days suspension? That seems, they need to explain that. They should have to explain that. Like, if I was a parent, even not involved, I want to hear an explanation as to why you just did that. Because whatever you did to that kid, then that's what you're going to do to my kid. Let's go back to the phones. Hey, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, comrade.
Hey, how you doing, Black Russia?
I'm all right. How's it going?
I'm doing great. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Thank you. Just listening to your conversation about this young man. What state was this in? I'm just curious.
I'm sorry?
What state was this in?
Colorado.
It's in Colorado? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just wasn't aware. I hadn't heard this story. Somebody told me about a young person, I guess on one of the Zoom calls here locally, had a ski mask on.
Yeah, I heard that as well.
You heard about that? I'm just like, this is not, these kids have to understand, this is not playtime. It's not. I mean, yeah, it's a little different, but it's not playtime. You know, it's like I'm watching, adults on Contemporary. They're having to work remotely, like on Zoom calls, conducting business. Like, this is what's going on right here in the schools. It's training wheels for what's to come for them in the business world, in case this, ever happens again, or in case it becomes the new norm, which I think it's going to be to some degree. So, all this gaming and stuff, like, yeah, I hear people saying that 5 days is excessive for the dude having a toy gun. I'm assuming it was during school, they on the video when the teacher saw the gun. Is that what happened?
Yes.
The toy gun?
Yeah, he was in virtual school.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, 5 days might be a little harsh, but come on, what is he doing? He's acting silly. Again, if he did this at school, it was called school, would he get 5 days? Maybe, maybe not. It's hard to say. I mean, I get your point about calling the parents, but like, what if the gun's real and he's terrorizing the parents? I mean, you can try to call the parents. I mean, I was saying don't do that, but like, if the teacher really feared that there was some danger, I mean, they probably train the schools. That's what they do. They call the police first. They don't call parents first. It's just the habit of the kids at the crib first. So I understand what you're saying. Like, let's use some common sense. But they're trained in a certain way. They react, to react a certain way in given scenarios, whether it's online or whether it's in person. I mean, I just think the kids got to just take this for what it's worth and be serious about school. That's what this boils down to, from my perspective. It's about people telling the kids this is business time. You know, it's just like you gotta treat this like you're at school. And parents have to. I mean, I know some parents have to go to work and do all that other stuff, but you got to create the atmosphere in your house for these kids to be educated. You know, you got to take phones. You know, hey, cut off TV, whatever you got to do. Cut the light on, sit at your desk, go check it out to make sure they ain't doing those silly stuff like pulling out toy guns and wearing ski masks. If you're at home, you know, it's just, to me, some of this stuff can be alleviated just by us talking to the kids about this is business. You know what I'm saying? I think this is a mentality of the kids. Like, the teachers did probably what they were trained to do. I'm not too mad at the teacher. Maybe the parents could appeal that, you know, to get it knocked down a couple of days, but by the time it's already over, it's over. I'm just like, this is silly. It's a silly story, and it's dumping on these kids. I mean, 7th grade's old enough. You know better. It's school time. You know, I'm just like, all this silly stuff with these kids just got to stop.
Yeah, but, you know, kids do silly stuff in school. So now they're at home in their environment where they feel comfortable. They're definitely going to do silly stuff.
Yeah, I hear that. I just, you know, ski mask and toy guns. Like, can we do something a little different than ski mask and toy guns? I mean, this is, you know, it's just silly. It's stupid. They got 5 days for having a toy gun at the crib. Come on, man. Put that at the crib. Can we please just conduct business until school's over with, and then we can get on our boys, we can get our calls with Zoom and play with our boys and wear ski masks and toy guns and do all that other silly shit then? This is in school time, y'all. Kids, I don't know how many kids are listening, but the parents are listening. This is stupid. This shouldn't even be happening. You know, if the kids understand this, you know, business time, they don't get 5 day suspensions for stupid stuff like this. I'm blaming the kid for this one.
All right.
You know, but that's how I feel about it. But I got some problems with Cincinnati school board. Man, I can't wait for this election next year. I'm like not even thinking about Donald Trump and them no more, because it seems like a lot of stupid stuff's going on in Cincinnati with policy in Cincinnati school board.
Really? Like what?
Like you mentioned about this anti-racism. But I want to hear more about that too. I've read like the outline. Okay, we'll see. But I'm concerned about these CPS athletes. I think these football players are being cheated right now as we speak, because every other district around them is playing except for Cincinnati public schools. If they can do that and make it safe in Princeton, if they can make it safe in Wyoming, my little nephew's playing in Wyoming, they're cool. Everybody's fine. They're playing 4 weeks now. I'm thinking about these Cincinnati public school kids. Like, damn, there's some kids who are backing on senior year to play to maybe get a good look, to get a scholarship somewhere, and that's being put on hold while everybody else around them's playing. I don't think it's fair. They gotta alleviate that.
Okay. All right. I appreciate the call, man. I mean, is it better to err on the side of caution? Maybe that's what CPS is doing.
Well, okay, that's why they're going virtual for the schools where you got thousands of kids there at one time. But we're watching everybody else in controlled environments. And, I mean, is Wyoming school district or Princeton school district just more advanced in how they handle COVID-19 athletically in the Cincinnati public?
Or maybe they're less concerned about the overall public health of the students.
Well, I don't know if it's about the overall public health of the students, because they're not going to school. You know, and some of these kids who are actually playing out there in the suburbs, they're going like, you know, half and half. They're doing everything virtual since they public schools. But they get the practice though, Nathan Ivey. That's another thing too. They get the practice the whole time and just don't play no game. That's stupid.
I mean, it's good for them though. At least they get to practice, keeping their body in shape, and you never know. I mean, the policy could change in a few weeks. They can get back to it, and that way they can hit the ground running.
Well, it needs to change. Like, and that's another thing too. Like, you know, some of the Walnut Hills is a Cincinnati public school, but they play in a different conference. Like that ECC, they're playing. Woodwoods, everybody playing. I just found it to be like they couldn't make no adjustment for certain situations. Like, it just like Cincinnati College Prep Academy, like one of the charter schools downtown, they playing. I just find it to be, disconcerting for your seniors. They probably been looking forward to this stuff, and now they're being disappointed while they watch all the other peers from other neighborhoods play. I just, I think they could have did something a little better than that as far as finding a justice. But, I think I'm looking at the board just like even Ryan Messer. You catch up with Ryan Messer about his, about forgiving Tom Brenneman?
I have not.
I mean, they're talking about Tom Brenneman, and these kids at Cincinnati public schools ain't playing. But Tom Brenneman is more important than these kids' scholastic achievements, potentially in college. I was just like, they focus on the wrong stuff, man. They talk a good game.
All right.
Take care of yourself.
All right, appreciate you. Yep, take it easy.
Wear a mask, y'all. Yep.
All right, take it easy. That's Black Russia. Oh, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's got a message from YouTube saying they put one of my videos behind an age restriction. Okay, great. I will do that. I got crazy messages coming in. Oh, he's got a message from Ryan Messer. Wait. Is this Ryan? Oh, this is Ryan Messer. Hold on. This is Ryan somebody. No, it's all good. It's not distracting. I just wanted to give you my opinion while I was live on the air. Okay, great. All right, before we roll out of here, I want to give you a heads up. Later on today, you got the NAACP Prince Hall Masons, and their town hall forum continues today. And today we'll be focusing on the Hamilton County prosecutor's race. And I wish I had, I was looking forward to speaking with, the other candidate, and that's Joe Dieters. Maybe something will happen between now and then. Now, unfortunately for me, it doesn't change the way that I approach it. For me, I have to approach it as if Joe Dieters is going to be there, because anything can happen between now and 6 p.m. today. And it's better be prepared and not needed than needed and not be prepared. At least that's the way I rock. So I've got to prepare. It's not going to change the way I'm going to prepare for. I'm going to prepare for Joe being there and go through all of my normal show prep, which I've been doing over the weekend anyway. So, because you never know, he might decide to show up. I think the reason why Joe Dieters, if he doesn't show up, and again, it isn't in stone, okay, but if he does not show up, I think the reason behind it is because Joe Dieters believes that he can win anyway. That's what it comes down to. He's like, screw the NAACP and the Prince Hall Masons. Those folks ain't going to vote for us anyway. I get a lot of this from Republican types. They're like, they ain't going to vote for me anyway. And when I step into the arena with my opponent, he might get a lucky shot in. You know what I'm saying? Because anytime you in the arena, anything can happen, right? You can land a crazy uppercut. Boom, it's over, right? So Joe Dieters and his people probably weighed the benefits, and they're like, you know what? We got money. Joe's got a name. We feel like we in the lead. So why even do it? You know what I'm saying? Why even do it? And I think, I'm not surprised by that, because that's the way that Joe has been as a Hamilton County prosecutor. You know what I'm saying? He favors non-black media. He favors certain media channels because he knows they're going to basically, bow down and kiss the ring and not challenge him on anything. You know what I'm saying? That seems to be the standard for him. Now, I do know that he did do a virtual town hall with some other folks, which I'm aware of and getting part of my prep. But I'm just disappointed that he won't be there for you, the voters. And to my Republican friends, I'll say it again. In Hamilton County, y'all missing out on a big opportunity. This idea that black folks won't vote for you is costing you, quite honestly. It really is. If y'all delivered tangibles, equity, policy tangibles for the black community would be more willing to listen to what you say and give you votes. You know what I'm saying? There's a crossroads going on right now politically. The Republican Party is totally missing the boat with it. But it is what it is. I mean, if in fact we end up having just one candidate, then it is what it is. We'll talk with that candidate, try to get to the bottom of who that candidate is. It's going to change, the feel of it a bit. But I don't think it'll be any less informative as it relates to that particular candidate. And it looks like that's going to be Fanon Rucker. So I'm looking forward to it. And again, anything can happen in the next 9 hours. Anything can happen. So don't be surprised. I would not be surprised. I won't be caught off guard. You can believe that. I will not be caught off guard. Good morning to you. We ain't going out like that. Anthony writes, one other part about recording is that it is also a teaching tool for schools. The situation is new to all of us. There will be a learning curve. Recording the schools tighten up the lesson plans and procedures. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I don't see a resource, a functionality in it. I just think these things should be made very, very plain as to the expectations and things like that. You know what I'm saying? So everybody knows what to expect. And like I said, 2 problems I have. One, not contacting the parents first. If you're concerned about an emergency going on in somebody's house, then call them. The phone call is much faster than school resource officers getting a call, walking to their car, driving to the residence, getting out the car, knocking on the door. If you really care, make the phone call, make it fast. And then secondly, 5 days suspended, that seems heavy-handed to me. Heavy-handed to me. Let's move on. Sarah writes, I don't agree with Fame. Charles writes, but the gun looks fake. The gun does look fake, but I think in a school situation, I don't think that makes a difference. I don't think that schools draw a distinction between real. They do, but they don't at the same time. They're going to look at it all the same. Like, they don't want a culture in the schools where people think it's okay to bring toy guns because that opens the door for a real gun. It's just they don't want gunplay in the schools, and I'm with them on that. I understand. Janice writes, absolutely harsh. He said, of course, they look at a toy gun as a threat, especially in the hands of a non-white person. Nat writes, I don't think a toy gun is a threat. Well, in a perfect world, it wouldn't be a threat. But in this world, when people see anything that looks like a gun, like I said, there's a guy in Ohio who didn't even have a gun. He had a cell phone. He had an Android. And a woman called the police. The police showed up like, hey, we got a call. Said you had a gun. What's up? Even though we're in an open carry state, you can walk down with a gun strapped around your back if you want to, in a holster. Tracy writes, your kids are not at home during school hours. Start there. C. Smith writes, T. Grasson, good morning. Fame writes, I don't agree with Sarah. Danielle writes, facts because it's there. Janice writes, and hopefully the parents. Jill writes, the foundation of America is built on false symbolism. Could be. Fame writes, no toys or school policy. FG writes, the only thing is to give his record. It's the beginning of the pipeline, right? Absolutely. Danielle writes, it's ridiculous. Janice writes, can parents appeal a virtual suspension or expulsion? I would imagine you can. I would have to say yes. Anthony writes, school rules still in place, in school or virtually. Sure, you can't have toy guns on school property. Only thing is, schools should have let parents know all rules will be enforced, even virtually. Is the school board finished with the public information forums? Seems they should continue those issues like these can be addressed. This is new for everyone. Jocelyn writes, if it had been a real gun and an accident had happened, everyone would be screaming about the school not reporting. Jocelyn's correct about that. C. Smith writes, facts, Nathan. I told you Warner Hills High School was a trip. Oh, man, you got some folks that work there that think that they built the school. They act like it's their school. Like it was built on their daddy's plantation. Arrogant. And I think what it is because Warner Hills has like the best test scores. And there's some people that hide behind that. Like, oh, what you going to do? We got good test scores. I'm like, really? Really? Telling you, people need to know. People need to know. If you don't know, you don't know. Don't comment. If you don't know, you don't know. I know. I've dealt with it firsthand. It'll take you back like, word? This is how we do things here? Amazing. Tracy writes, first week of school, my son was online with his cell phone out. Nah, son, knock it out. Oh man, you did tell me that, C. Smith. You did. You did. I'm learning firsthand. I've learned firsthand. Janice writes, I held suspension and expulsion hearings when I worked for CPS. I mean, the issue's so crazy at Walnut Hills on some level, so disrespectful. It damn near makes me want to run for school board just so I could then have the influence to do something about it. That's how real it is. And it can happen. I have no doubt about that. That's how real it is. You know what I'm saying? That's how real it is. And like I said, if I became an elected official, I don't give a damn about a second term. What I care about is being impactful in the first term. I would do things differently. You know what I'm saying? Stepping on toes, it don't matter. I'm here to tell you. And it can happen. It can happen. I feel 100% confident in that. 100%. It's all about, do I want to do it or not do it? But the campaign itself, raising the awareness and getting the support, I believe I could have that. No doubt about it. 100%. 100%. I'm just in a different place right now. Ed writes, email, that's a phone call to the parent. I agree, a phone call. You don't email like, your son, that's a phone call. Anthony writes, sadly too, we do have a large amount of kids that play with guns and kill themselves. But Jocelyn made a great point. She's so right about that. We just can't gloss over that. Had the school did nothing, maybe made a phone call, nothing like that, and didn't send police officers, and the young boy shot himself or shot somebody else on some oops, my bad type stuff, everybody would have blamed the school. Everybody, and we would have blamed the school. Like, why aren't y'all saying police? So let's be fair about this. Let's be fair about this. You know what I'm saying? Let's be fair about this. Let's be fair. Nobody, I don't think anybody would disagree with that. If that went down like that, Carl, I was about to bring you straight on. If it went down like that, everybody would blame the school. That's why I said I think there's two sides of the conversation. Like, the school had to do something. They had to do something. I might even say they had to send the school resource officer over there to I say that. They had to send the school resource officer over there to do a wellness check. Once they saw the gun flash, they got to do something. They can't just let it go. They have to say that we took extraordinary steps to try to figure out what's going on. Because if they don't, and the young man shoots himself in the head or shoots his mama by mistake, they got big problems. Big problems. Sarah writes, will the 1619 project be considered for curriculum in CPS? Good question. If not, how will that impact this so-called anti-racist policy given the statistics that clearly shows that our children are being targeted and disproportionately expelled, suspended, or placed in the pipeline to prison population? All good questions. Kelly's on YouTube. She writes, good morning. Charles writes, it's overkill like AF. Yeah, good morning to you. Hey, listen, before we roll out of here, I want to talk about a couple of other things. I want to talk about this conversation between Joe Budden and the Joe Budden podcast and Charlemagne the God. Okay, I want to talk about Joe Budden and Charlemagne the God just a little bit, because I got a chance to sort of catch up with all of the videos, and I thought it was something very interesting there. Now, you know, I enjoy the Breakfast Club and their content. I think they do some of the best interviews, you know, that anybody's doing in commercial radio right now. The best interviews. Okay, they've had some classic moments. Remember Birdman? They've had some classic moments. Remember Onyx? Remember that? I mean, great conversations. And Joe Budden, man, is something of an enigma to me. I mean, you know, when he was doing, what was it, Pump It Up, I was never really a Joe Budden fan. Okay. I only got hip to Joe Budden when he started crossing over into other worlds, like the reality television world and some of the drama surrounding him and Tahiri and some of the other women and things like that. It kind of caught my radar screen. I remember in Joe Budden challenge, what was the dude's name? In the battle rap, I thought he lost it. But he did his thing. He held his own, I guess. I thought he lost that. Who did he battle rap? Joe Budden versus it wasn't Loaded Lux. It was what was that guy's name? I could see his face. Help me out here, any battle rap fans. And then Joe Budden was he was on what was it Everyday Struggle? Yeah, he was on Everyday Struggle, just put out by Complex. And I like their show. I appreciate the show. I thought when Joe was on there, it was kind of like the high mark. And then they got Star from Star and Buck Wild. I thought Star was going to do a good job, and he decided to go back and do his own YouTube thing. But that didn't really work out, with Joe Budden and Everyday Struggle. And he started doing his own podcast on YouTube, and it's taking off. He's got almost 1 million followers, subscribers. And I read within the last year or so that he was going to do a deal with Spotify, because Spotify wants to control, they want to control all audio, not just music, but all this new medium called podcasting as well. So they were working with Joe Budden. And I think they had a contract, and they were negotiating a second contract. And in the process of when Joe Budden started working for Spotify, or in a partnership with Spotify, things actually went south in terms of their negotiation. And I watched his video, man. Did they give him a Rolex, like some broken down used Rolex, or some kind of some type of incentive to re-sign with Spotify? But the gist of the story, if you don't know, is that Joe Budden decided to not re-up with Spotify. Essentially, he felt as if he was worth more than what they were offering. He might have been looking for equity, something big, rather than just a contract. And when it came out, Charlemagne the God went on, I don't know if it was the Breakfast Club or the Brilliant Idiots, which is his own podcast that he does as well. Again, I follow all of this. I do this. This is what I do. So I follow all of this. And all the trends, what everybody's doing, I'm very aware of it. And so Charlemagne the God goes on his podcast and criticized Joe Budden. At least Joe Budden took it that way, saying something essentially like, basically you should negotiate it better. You know what I'm saying? And Joe Budden took great offense to it. He took great offense to it and went on his show and just delivered white hot fire. And I watched it. It was somebody sent it to me. It was already on my radar screen, but as soon as he sent it to me, I'm like, oh yeah, let me watch this right now. And I watched the entire thing, and it was very interesting. It was very interesting because I saw some similarities in terms of what Joe Budden was talking about and my own relationship and interactions with, corporate media, black owned or otherwise. And there were some similarities. Like, I'll say it again. I'll say it to all creatives. You're never going to be as appreciated as you will when you do your own thing. It was interesting because there was a brother out on the range. We were out there at Ride or Die, and one of the listeners brought him along. And when I met him, first time I met the brother, he's like, yeah, man, I used to listen to you. You was back on corporate radio. And I, kind of lost touch with you on the internet. And I'm like, I get that a lot. And it kind of surprises me because the internet is just so user-friendly. I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube. I mean, it doesn't get more user-friendly in terms of being on the internet than that. And it's just really interesting the way that people look at stuff. You know what I'm saying? People look at these corporate entities as if they're more legitimate just because they're a corporate entity. And to me, that's the wrong way of looking at it, especially in 2020. I'll say it again, the internet is the future. I love being on the internet. And the brother he just asked me this weekend, he's like, you ever thought about going back? Would you ever go back? And I told him resoundingly, hell no. Why would I do that? I would never go back and work for anybody in this world, no corporate, I don't care what they are, under the same contract, if you will, because I never had a contract with Radio One. But I would never do that. Why would I ever sell myself short? I'll say it again, Radio One never paid me for what I delivered for them. They never paid me what I was worth. And that's the way you get ahead. If you pay people what they're worth, you don't make money. You don't make money. People will be surprised how people get paid in terms of corporate radio. Like, even if they have a so-called contract, they ain't making no real money. And it's just night and day. It ain't even close. And like I told the brother, I said, sure, their platform may give me, more visibility because they may have, more listeners. But the ceiling is so much higher when you do your own thing. And I'm looking toward the future, not toward the past. You know what I'm saying? I want to be in a situation where there is no ceiling. Whenever you work for somebody else, especially a corporate entity, there's always a ceiling. It's always a ceiling. And so when I heard Joe Budden talking about his negotiations, I'm like, oh man, the brother's he's speaking facts. He's speaking facts. And so Joe Budden, to me, you know, in that whole Charlemagne of God versus Joe Budden, and Joe Budden brought up some things that, I mean, I don't know if it's embarrassing or not, but you know, Charlemagne of God was working with HBO. He was about to do an HBO special. But this idiot, and I guess that's why he calls his podcast The Brilliant Idiots, he was going way too far with it. He went on this show, started talking about how he basically date raped somebody. He gave the woman something on some Bill Cosby-ish. And I remember listening to him like, what in the hell is this? Is this a joke? But he was serious. Charlemagne God was talking about how he basically slipped something into a woman's drink and she was under the influence and out of it. And then he had sex with her. And then when everybody was like, wait a minute, you just did some Bill Cosby-ish, he wanted to walk it back. And then the woman involved must have heard it, and she went in the media like, you know what, I want my justice. And HBO decided to drop and disavow and disassociate themselves with him. And Charlemagne and Joe Budden brought that up in the conversation. I thought it was very appropriate. And essentially he said, he's like, you know, what happened to your show, Charlemagne? You know, you said you're a great guy. I mean, you influential. It was going to be a great show. He said, but white folks made a decision. And it's very interesting that even in so-called black-owned, and not so-called, but black-owned corporate radio, my experience was it was just an open door of white general managers. You know what I'm saying? In some cases, even younger than the people that were program directors and was doing the actual content. I never understand that. I never understand how you have black-owned media. And when you go to these particular cities, the person that's at the top of the food chain in the market is a non-black person. But all your content is for black people. I'll never get that. I'll never understand that. That don't make no damn sense to me. And like I said, I'll say it again, man. What happened with Jerry Tolliver was wrong. That was political and personal, made by a non-black person. I just kind of I was collateral damage, kind of got caught up in the game. I mean, what difference does it make if you black owned, but the people that make the decision in the respective cities is all white? I don't get it. And that's what Joe Budden was speaking to. You know, in that whole conversation, I have to side with Joe. Know your worth, people. I know my worth. Other people might not look at it. I get it all the time. People look at me like, well, Nate, I mean, listen, as an entrepreneur, I'll listen to any conversations. I'm open to all conversations. But you got to know your worth. You know what I'm saying? I know my worth. I'd rather do my own thing and either fail or succeed than use my God-given talents for somebody else that's going to underpay me and undervalue me. Can you feel me on that? Can you hear me on that? So people need to change their perceptions. So I'm thinking big. I'm thinking long term. Other people get caught up in today. They get caught up in these corporate names and call numbers. That just don't mean a damn thing if they ain't paying you what you worth. I've had conversations with, you know, people in corporate media. I'll say no names here locally. And I've said to them like, you know what? We should team up. You are somebody. We can do this. I need benefits and all this. I'm like, what the hell? Where is the backbone? I don't get it. I've heard this. I'm telling you what I've done, not what I think, not what I've heard, not what somebody told me, conversations I've had. And I'm like, damn, yo, you don't know your worth? I know my worth. You know what I'm saying? Trust me on that 100%. So I agree. That's essentially what Joe Budden was saying. He was saying to creatives, know your worth. Don't sell yourself short because somebody want to give you a Rolex watch. Somebody want to tell you, you know, they're going to give you something. It's about tangibles. It's about equity. If you ain't talking about that, depending on, you know who you are and what your value is, you ain't got nothing. You ain't really doing nothing. You dancing around on somebody else's stage. And if I'm going to do that, then I'll dance on my own stage every day, all day. So when people come to me, I can see the look in their eyes sometimes, like it's almost like they feel sorry to me. And I'm looking at them like, you just don't know. You just don't No, you have no idea, do you? You have no idea. So I completely identify with Joe Budden. I get what the brother was saying. I get where he was coming from 100%. I'll say it again, the black creatives, do your own thing. Step out on faith. Do it. You know what I'm saying? Know your worth. Don't allow yourself to be sell short just because, you're associated with what you believe is a larger brand. Look at what's really happening. You know what I'm saying? Because even when I was in corporate radio, I'm looking at my paycheck. I'm looking at what's really happening. I'm like, I think I can do more. There are people on YouTube you've never heard of that have audiences way larger. Way larger. Yeah, most definitely. Way larger than people in corporate media. Not even close. And again, I wish I had done this earlier. I wish I had did this earlier. I wish I had went online much earlier. If I could do one thing differently, I would have done this earlier. You know what I'm saying? Because I have a deeper relationship with my audience. When you hear ads played on the Nathan Ivey Show, that 100% goes to CDM. 100%. When you hear ads in corporate radio, you might hear personalities reading them. They ain't getting paid for that unless they're saying their name. They don't get paid for that. I mean, you can have an ad campaign that's worth $10,000, and the host, a personality, can be reading it and don't get $1 out of it. Not zero. Zip. They just get the prestige of reading it. I'm way beyond that. You know what I'm saying? Here, it's 100% to me. It's 100% to CDM. Whoa! I'm not saying there are some functionality or some good things that come out of it. It's all about how you work it. So, believe me, Nate is good, better than ever. Trust me. And I don't look backwards. I always look forward. I'm thinking about the next thing, not going back to do some old shit. I already did that. I did public radio. I did corporate radio. Now I'm on the internet. I love it. Trust me 100% when I tell you that. If I felt otherwise, I would tell you. I would tell you 100%. Now, does that mean I won't listen to conversations? I'll listen to any conversation. Any conversation. As an entrepreneur, you want to talk? Listen to them and talk. Now, let me think. That's just smart business. But in terms of how I see myself and, how I see my future in terms of my God-given talents, man, my God-given talents are 100% for me. 100%. Not 90%, not 70%, 100%. You know what I'm saying? You better believe it. And I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way, believe me. And shout out to all my corporate media friends. They do great work. I'm glad you have different entities, but everybody's different. You know what I'm saying? Some folks, it's good for what's good for one person ain't necessarily good for another person. But to round it back around, I mean, I 100% agree with Joe Budden. Spotify tried to pay him less than what he was worth. He said, screw that. I'm going to do my own thing. You know what I'm saying? They tried to give him a little pot of money. It could have been a big pot of money. He's like, you know what? That's a nice pot of money here, but no, I know my worth. I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing. And we need more people to have that kind of attitude. We need more people that have that kind of attitude. I'm telling you, man, there's about 5-6 people in this market within corporate radio that if we were under the same umbrella, we would dominate what corporate radio is doing. No doubt about it. 100%. 100%. No doubt about it. But it's all about how you do your business. Everybody has their finances in a way. And I get it. You got to have benefits and going to the doctor and you need eyeglasses and stuff like that. I get it. I'm not saying I'm without feeling. I understand. Let me see here. So in that Joe Budden versus Charlamagne the God, I agree with Joe Budden. Joe Budden's on point. 100%. Y'all should go back and check it out. It was dope. He's got a couple of videos when he talks about Spotify and some of the negotiation a little bit. I mean, he doesn't give me all the details because he said he had an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement. But in essence, and for what I understand, I think the brother's on point. Do your thing, Joe. Do your thing. Charles writes, the art teacher would have called Hunter's parents, but calls the cops on ID. Hunter, but calls the cops on Isaiah. It's hilarious, man. Shout out to people that do their own thing, man. Shout out to black creators that create their own media. I appreciate you. Let me see here. Fame writes, this kid is getting off easy. Let me see. Every school district has an automatic expulsion policy about pulling fire alarms, bringing drugs or weapons to school, and that policy includes fake weapons. This kid is getting a heck of a break. I don't think so. I think that this is COVID-19, so nobody could anticipate virtual learning. This is new. So when you're in a new scenario, you may have to redo and rethink some of the rules. Bringing a fake gun to the school is not the same as having toy guns in the background or a toy gun in your house in virtual learning. It is not the same thing. It is not the same thing. It is not the same thing. Let me flash forward here to see what you think. Rachel writes, Colorado is the state of the Columbine school shooting. The schools changed policies after Columbine. I agree. Hey, Pat, good to see you. I saw those baby pictures, those pictures of you when you were a child. Adorable. Adorable. TNT writes, good morning. Let me see here. All kind of questions. Hey, Samantha's on YouTube. Good morning to you. Hey, listen, family, take a second because I'm blowing out my YouTube, putting more focus on the video content on my YouTube and also on the Nathan Ivey Show. If you haven't already, subscribe to me on YouTube, find me there, and please subscribe and hit the bell notification. That way, whenever I post anything new, then you'll get a notification of it. It's so important. So important. Help me get to my first milestone, which is 1,000 subscribers. You know, I didn't know this before I started really going hard on YouTube, is that they've got different milestones. So you've got to get so much watch time, so many subscribers in order to do certain things and unlock certain functionality on YouTube. Same thing on Facebook. Same thing on Facebook if you don't know. It's the same way. Good morning to you. Did anybody else see paying attention to Charlamagne the God and Joe Budden? Anybody else paying attention to that? Y'all should be. It was interesting to me anyway. Let me see. Fame writes, Tracy writes, I think I had it in February. Fame writes, I think I had it in June. See, I think a lot of people already had COVID, or you think you had COVID, before you knew what it really was. Like back in January, they were talking about COVID, but you didn't know it was as prevalent as it really was until the numbers start coming out. But I swear, man, my son was sick all of a sudden. We couldn't really put our finger on it. You know, I had some symptoms. Of course, that was before my cardiac event. C. Smith writes, I think I did, Nate. I was sick as a dog late February till mid-March. I think a lot of people did. And then I remember it took a long time for me to start to feel better. Not even talking about the cardiac stuff. It took a while. And then for our son, it took a while. It took some weeks for him to get back to normal. So again, what I like to know is if you already had COVID and your body builds up antibodies to resist it, are you now immune from it? Are there different strains of COVID? Can you be reinfected by a different strain from COVID? I don't know. Jocelyn writes, JMK is wonderful. Thank goodness she's okay. Robert writes, I believe we had the same thing in November/December. Brenda writes, I think I had it in December. And that would make sense because back in December, the perception was it was like a China thing. It was like an outside the United States thing. But then we found out in like March that, oh, this is real. Like people here have it. Tracy writes, no, you can't get it again. Okay, it's good to hear. Let me see here. Ryan writes, I would have probably called his parents to explain why having a toy gun to a virtual session is not appropriate. And that would be it. This was way out of a textbook example of government overreach. If they wanted to have that kind of control, they should just go back to in person. Katie writes, there's no reinfection tracker now. The first official reinfection was the end of August. Hey, good morning to you, Katie. Good morning to you. Charles is counting something. He's up to 10. What are you counting, Charles? Jericho writes, okay, there's inconsistencies on the show. Was the child at school with a toy gun or at home? The child was at school. Virtual school while at home. Okay. The child was physically, the child was at home, in his own home doing virtual learning. Okay. Let me see. Doing this whole Zoom thing. Okay, I see people responding to her. C. Smith writes, oh, they've been wild and siblings cursing out teachers, playing loud music, eating, etc. My teacher friends are spent. Shout out to the teachers, man, because I can tell and I can understand why you would be exasperated. Shout out to all the good teachers and administrators, number one, because you hear me talk about some of the issues I've had in my daughter's school. But like I said, I worked in CPS. I work right with these teachers and administrators. You know what I'm saying? The principal was grooming me, right? I was in the principal's ear every day. I worked close with these individuals across the board. Generally speaking, great people, and teachers and administrators are not paid enough. They're not paid enough. I ate lunch with the teachers many, many days in the teacher's lounge. Now, you already know that's the inside. I heard all of it. Okay, I got nothing but respect for teachers and administrators because I did it. I'm telling you what I saw. I saw people spending their own money. School district didn't have enough money. Teachers coming out their own pocket, paying for clothes, looking after these kids in a way that I didn't even know was possible. Working with kids after school, before school. So I want to make sure you understand who you're listening to. I'm not one of these people that's here to ish on all teachers and administrators because I don't feel that way. But when I see dumb ish, I call it out. I'm tearless and fearless about it. Period. Okay, so I support the teachers and administrators in CPS 100%. I know from my own eyes and my heart that generally speaking, they're great people. Generally speaking, they're great people. But when you come across a bad apple, I call it out. Period. Let's go back to the phones. Our final call for this morning. Hey, good morning, caller. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Nathan the Choppers.
Hey, Brother Forte.
Hey, listen, I've been in training. I only heard you for about the last 10 minutes. But I don't know if you talked about it or not, but I'd like to thank all the choppers who came out to the advanced class, which turned into two classes. We had an advanced and an intermediate, but it was all good. And I really appreciate everybody coming out and getting some of that knowledge and learning some things to help them in this COVID world with this CCW type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for putting the information out for us. And, maybe we'll get a chance to do it again before the weather gets too bad outside to do it.
I have heard some interest in that, Forte. What would be like a deadline, like time frame for another class? And I'm thinking another class, it should be what, a beginner intermediate class, something like that?
Yeah, I think we will put this one as a beginner intermediate, so we don't have to do all the advanced things that my partner like to do, which had me cracking up, but it is good training.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy watching the more advanced, folks as well. I thought it was all valuable.
Yeah, well, like I said, man, it was just good to get some of the folks out there because we've been talking about this for a long time, and even the ladies did well. I had the pleasure of walking them through their faces, which you got to see, and I enjoyed them, as well as the guys. We had a lot of new shooters wind up showing up. But in the end, it was two instructors, so we made it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
So I'm gonna hit you on this before I get off the air. I got a chance to see Donnie B's thing when she told everybody to watch the situation in Louisville, and believe me, you understand what I mean now about the warrant is only as good as the officers who present it, right?
Right.
So just because the judge signed a warrant, I just got to bring that up. It don't mean that it's all good. It means that somebody has low integrity and they want to put their hand on the Bible, so to speak, and swear to something. So yeah, warrants. I mean, they're only as good as the officers who willing to go up there and sign their name to them. And tell the judge whether it's factual or whether it's ad libbing, what happened big time in the case in Louisville. You hitting 4 or 5 places at once. You don't have uniforms with you. You kick somebody, go down in the middle of the night. All ATL was going to break loose. I hope it never happened in my house. Because you need blue lights and white hats, so I know exactly who you are. You breach, and believe me, you're going to think it's raining. You're going to say, it's raining lead. Because I'm already set up for that. I don't know who's going to come in my house. But we won't be the only ones losing. I guarantee you that. And I told you, in my career, I had served some of those warrants, and they are super aggressive. The officers have to be super aggressive because you coming in like, I like to say, a thief in the night, and you know what that is. That's somebody sneaking up on you. You're hearing bangs and crashes, and all of a sudden you see people with guns. That's not a good day for the home team, you know. But hey, brother, you keep up the good work, and like I say, I keep up the choppers, because everybody got opinions and they strong, you know. So keep it up, man, and I'll get with you on a personal note. I'll call you on one of these lines a little bit later today.
All right, take it easy.
Take care, sir.
Yeah, most definitely. That's Brother Forte. Appreciate you.
All right.
Brother Forte checking in. Appreciate him. I appreciate him this morning. So yeah, there's a possibility of doing another sort of beginner class. And I'm down. I mean, you know, I'll put the word out. If you're interested, then, you know, let me know. And we can get out there before the weather changes. And I can having gone out there, now I can understand it. Now I can understand it. Good morning to you. Let me see here. That's my time. I got to make a move with a 10-10. I got to make a move, family. Listen, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. We've had a great conversation about this. Try to be fair about it as much as possible, but we're living in complicated times. We're living in complicated times. We're living in times that are very unusual. These are very unusual times and days that we live in. And I think that what's important is to understand there should be some flexibility. Like, I understand that you got school rules, but this is different with virtual learning. You know, we're doing things that we never thought that we would do. Okay? And I'll stand by what I said. I think that the school could have done some things wrong. Number one, call the parents. You think there's a gun in the house? Call the parents. Don't email, call them. If ever there was a time for an emergency situation, call them. And then secondly, 5 days for a suspension for something like that, I think it's heavy-handed. I'll leave you like that, okay? Have an excellent rest of your day. We'll catch up again later on this evening for the virtual town hall for the Hamilton County prosecutor's race. As I've said, let's just wait and see if Joe Dieters comes through, okay? My preparation will be the same until I am confirmed either way. And if he doesn't show, then the question is two things. Was there a scheduling conflict? Is there a personal issue? Or was it politically motivated? Okay. People have personal issues. I get it. Sometimes there are scheduling conflicts, which I'm a little less tolerant for because I think it's been on the schedule for some time. But if it's politically motivated, like strategic, like, hey, I just don't want to do it because I don't respect that audience, I think it's something people should remember. I think it's something you should remember. Like, showing up at these forums means a whole lot. I think it means a whole lot. So listen, have an excellent rest of your day. We'll talk again real soon. I'm Nathan Ivey, and I'm out.